Machine learning is just everywhere in our life. Algorithms has been trained to decide if our resume can meet a hiring bar, to decide who is recommended to follow on Instagram, and to decide the interest rate for your home loan. You just cannot run away from machine learning in modern day life. We'd like to imagine that the machines, systems, and algorithms we create are objective and neutral, devoid of prejudice. We often have the wishful thinking that algorithms are free from human weaknesses such as bias and the tendency to misinterpret a situation. However, this is not true. You may wonder, where does the bias come from? Machine learning algorithm is trained with data, and human beings are the ones collecting the data and deciding what data to include and what not to include. The data is often imperfect. For example, it may contain some classes of data more than the others. It can be mistakenly labeled, and you can just train algorithm using garbage data. And machine learning is a process of an algorithm looking for rules and patterns inside the data. If the data is skewed or tells a terrible story, the rules it created is based on these foundational errors and is then susceptible to many forms of bias, such as confirmation bias, correlation bias, or sample bias. Think about this example. We run a machine learning algorithm on past US presidential election to determine what types of candidates have a high chance of winning, therefore forecasting the result of the election. We all know the US never has a female president in history. Machine learning algorithm may identify being male is a prerequisite of winning the election. Another classic bias is correlation bias. Look at this graph about worldwide non-commercial space launchers and the number of sociology doctorates awarded in the US. This parallel may just seem absurd to any rational human being, but algorithms don't recognize any problem and make predictions based on conclusions drawn from the data.
So, why is the problem of AI and machine learning important and deserves more attention? Consider how often have you let an algorithm decide for you? Have you used Siri or Google Maps to help decide the nearest gas station or restaurant? However, are the locations they mention really the best decision for you? Daily entertainment, including but not limited to online shopping and sound playing, are now extensively using AI and machine learning. The algorithms are mainly used to make recommendations. When those recommendations are biased, they are not only inefficient, they can also negatively affect our user experiences. AI and machine learning are getting more intertwined with our daily routines. We use AI in finding the best path to school or workplaces. The fact that facial recognition technology performs better with certain races also affects the efficiency in face recognition processes. Delayed entrance can become problems. Now, a growing number of companies like Salesforce are selling AI-backed systems that schools can use to track potential students and help decide who gets in. If future admissions decisions are based on past decision data, it can limit a school's demographic makeup, harming disadvantaged students. There's one application of machine learning where we find especially high error rates for minority groups, anomaly detection. Here's an example when Google, Facebook, and other tech companies aim to block users who used uncommon names. This controversy was named the name wars. Suppose that in some cultures, most people receive names from a small set of names, whereas in other cultures, names might be more diverse and it might be common for names to be unique. For users in the latter culture, a popular name would more likely to be fake. The problem is, the same feature that constitutes evidence toward a prediction in one group might conflict against the prediction for another group. If we are not careful, learning algorithms will generalize based on the majority culture, leading to a high error rate for minority groups.
How could we try to detect and probably reduce the unfairness in algorithms? Two kinds of tests are developed to help diagnose potential unfairness or discrimination. One is testing discrimination in practice, and the other is testing fairness in algorithmic decision-making, specifically issues in algorithmic system. The audit study is a popular technique for diagnosing discrimination. It involves a study design called a field experiment, in which participants are unaware that they are in the experiment. So this makes the result real instead of artificial. If an audit study is designed well, it can illuminate the mechanisms that produce disparities. So another kind of traditional test is purely observational test. When we are not able to do experiments on the system of interest, there are still many questions we can answer with purely observational data. So for example, one question that can be based on observational data is whether the decision maker used sensitive attribute. This is a table summarizing traditional tests and methods. W is a feature that is considered irrelevant to the decision, and X apostrophe is a set of features that may not coincide with those observed by the decision maker, and Y apostrophe is an outcome that may or may not be the one that is the target of the prediction. So there are many studies related to the unfairness in algorithmic systems, like the fairness considerations in applications of natural language processing and computer vision. And due to the time limit, I will only focus on the discrimination in the search and recommendation systems. So search engines, social media platforms, and recommendation systems have different underlying algorithms but can generate same kinds of harms. First, they might satisfy some users' information needs better than others, and second, they might privilege some content over others, and third, systems may amplify cultural stereotypes. As we discussed, there are still many disparities detected in systems people use in their daily lives. So how do users, people who are not data scientists and industrial experts, help with reducing unfairness in the future? I think at least people should be aware of the biases in algorithmic systems and watch out for them.